one thing in 1967 to assess Patterson film. It's a whole different ballgame with the technology that's available today. In that it's much more. It's
Please support this channel by subscribing and leaving comments.
Meldrum, an evolutionary morphologist from Idaho State University, who looked into the case quite closely. He's here to share with us his findings about the case, and he could probably tell us a little bit about his background before he begins. Please welcome Dr. Jeff Meldrum.
All right, well, I'd like to express my appreciation for the invitation to come out and participate in the forum, for all the gestures of hospitality that have been extended to me since being here. It's been a real interesting and enjoyable 2 days of meetings. Perhaps by way of introduction, because I know I run the risk of giving the appearance of being somewhat of an interloper or latecomer, but I haven't put in my dues. I actually became interested in Bigfoot many years ago. In fact, last night, the night before, as I was visiting with John Green and we were comparing notes, we made an interesting discovery. Back when I was always interested in human evolution and primates and so forth. And I can remember as a kid in 5th grade, it was just after the Patterson film had aired, and I had talked to my dad and taken my brother and myself down to the Spokane Coliseum, the packed Spokane Coliseum. We were on the 3rd row and saw Rogers came out on stage and so forth. Sometime thereafter, in our 5th grade class, we were doing a science unit on primates. So the teacher was asking for examples of primates, and the list was growing, and someone raised their hand, more as a joke than anything else, and said, Bigfoot. And fortunately, the teacher was open-minded, and she said, well, let's see. What characteristics does it have, or does it report to have? Well, if it does exist, it probably would be a primate, wouldn't it? So she added it to our growing list of primates. And then eventually, these were assigned out to students to do reports and presentations to the class. And when Bigfoot came up and one hand shot up, and 9 and another individual in the class were assigned to Bigfoot, well, I went to the teacher and said, well, where in the world are we going to find anything about Bigfoot? She said, well, go talk to the librarian. She's a Canadian, and she has some materials. And lo and behold, it was John Green's cousin, Mary Bessie. So it's a small world. And, so at that age, I mean, while other kids were memorizing the statistics of baseball players and collecting baseball cards, I was memorizing sightings and names and dates and places and clipping newspaper articles. But that all got shelved as as time went on, and then as they went into college, and didn't keep track of things very, very closely, and then when we were back east pursuing graduate studies, it basically was just an interesting aside, and occasionally there'd be a spot or program. So it's been about a little over 15 years since I had done anything serious at all, and all the materials were all consolidated and packed into a box and stuck in the corner of the closet. I had contacted Richard Greenwell about a totally unrelated matter. One of my research interests has been the evolutionary history of New World monkeys, and there have been some interesting discoveries recently, rediscoveries of discoveries that included, among other things, 2 nearly complete skeletons from Brazilian Pleistocene cave deposits of 4.5-foot tall monkey, essentially a spider monkey. And the announcement of this brought to mind the stories of loisae, Amaranthus loisai. And so I was following the paper trail on that story, sort of doing a reanalysis, because I'd basically taken Ivan Sanderson at his word and written that off as a hoax. And in any case, I was talking to Richard about this, a couple articles that had appeared in the Trip to Zoology Journal. And it was through that conversation that he learned of my past interest in Bigfoot. About 2 weeks later, I got a telephone call and I said, "Hey, do you want to analyze a videotape on the alleged Bigfoot site?" And I thought, well, sure, it'll be fun. You exercise a little exercise in debunking, and so one thing led to another. My degrees are in biology and zoology specifically, with an emphasis in anatomical sciences, and then I went on and got a PhD. I got a master's in zoology as well at Brigham Young University, and then went back east to State University of New York at Stony Brook, where I pursued studies in anatomical sciences with an emphasis in physical anthropology. So basically we were sitting in the first and second year medical students during all the basic science courses, and then when they would go off to the clinical courses, we would go off and take evolution and comparative primate anatomy and historical geology and so on. So that's where I'm coming from. My graduate research was particularly in terrestrial locomotion of old world monkeys, with implications for hominid bipedalism. So I was looking at monkey quadrupedalism adapted to terrestriality, so that I could generalize characteristics of terrestrial feet that could then be sort of subtracted away from the early hominid foot, and what was left were those unique features associated with bipedalism. And so it's that avenue that I'm most particularly interested in, as I came back into this, was to look at the footprint evidence now from a different point of view, from the perspective of the functional morphology and anatomy, and see if there are consistent patterns, or if there are good evidence of repeat appearances of single individuals that clearly show or demonstrate the dynamics of the foot fall and toe position and joint mobility and so forth. All right, so without further ado, it's going to be kind of a potpourri, and I'd like to keep this as informal as possible. So please ask questions as we go along, because we're going to kind of hop, skip, and jump through several different topics. So just interject questions at any point. To set this up then, well, first of all, maybe how many of you have seen the Redwoods video, or at least the hard copy version? Okay, we're going to show it briefly, and then I'll take us through some features. I want to say at the onset that I have no firm convictions one way or the other on this or any of the things that I'm going to be talking about. They are ideas. They are. I feel very strongly about that, or take the approach that I will evaluate anything that's set before me and weigh the pros and cons according to their own merits. We'll talk a little bit. I won't spend as much time today talking about the context of the witnesses and the psychological aspects of witness testimony. What I'm going to do, because that is so subjective, and for every argument there is probably a counter-argument. I'll address your questions and concerns. But basically what I'm saying is there are pros and cons to what we see on the videotape. I see many more pros than I see cons. With this kind of evidence, especially in this day and age, I mean, it was one thing in 1967 to assess the Patterson film. It's a whole different ballgame with the technology that's available today. In that it's much more conceivable and plausible that a more sophisticated hoax could be perpetrated than it could be in 1967. And so that makes it all the more difficult to say anything really definitive. But there are a number of very suggestive details of this tape that really escape initial viewing. You have to literally watch it hundreds of times and slow motion and stop action to really appreciate it. Okay, what we have here is a television production company called Waterland Productions. I think it's in. Oh, it's not in it. Was it in? The Waterland Production Company. One of their major projects. Was a television series called Adventures Television, which some of you may or may not have seen. It's a show in which the viewers call in or write in and ask about some fantasy vacation or some tourist attraction, and the television crew takes you there vicariously. This particular episode was concerned with a trip up the California Coast Highway, starting in Anaheim, and driving up and stopping along the way and seeing the sights. It's a 5-day adventure, a 5-day shoot rather. They were on the 5th day. They had just completed the shooting in the Redwoods, and the grips were breaking down the camera equipment and loading things back up. The crew, which are the rest of the cast and photographers, staff photographers, which consisted of 5 people, climbed back into this 34-foot Four Winds RV and were tooling around through the Redwood parks. There's quite a number of parks. This occurred in the Jedediah Smith Redwoods Park. They had turned down a dead-end road, Walker Road, which has a fork, but both a dead end on the river. The road's fairly narrow. At its widest point, it's no more than 14 feet, and so the redwoods encroach right up to the shoulders of the road in places, and there are a number of little turns and so forth. There's really no place to turn around. There's one turnout that we saw, but you get a truck turnaround in there, but not a 34-foot RV. They got concerned. It was a rented RV. Dean was very concerned because it was his signature on the rental contract for the Redwoods tape, or for the RV, excuse me. In any case, so they have been trying to back out now for about 20 minutes. Since the shoot's over, you'll see that the sponsors are Corona and Arrowhead Beer. And pardon?
Arrowhead Water.
Arrowhead Water. Well, it's Corona Beer.
Corona Beer.
Corona Beer and Arrowhead Water. And so they now, since their obligation's done, they can break open some of the sponsors' goods, and they've got the music cranked up and are just basically partying. The high 8 camera had been in use throughout the trip for sort of behind-the-scenes shots and just filler for when the beta cams weren't running, just to document the trip essentially. And so let's go ahead and run it.
Jeff?
Yes.
In case are you going to show from the very beginning when he first sees it with the words, or?
Yes. Now, yeah, there is some
profanity.
In case some of you really are offended by profanity, I just thought I'd warn you that this wasn't on TV. This is just on the laptop. Yeah, I don't want him to hear this.
Okay, here they are in Anaheim. This is the sponsor. This is the CEO's, I guess, here. That's a little loud there. And here's the host. This is Anne-Marie Goddard arriving. This is, like I said, this is down in Anaheim. You can see actually in the background the RV parked right back here. You'll notice as they cut back. See, as you can see, this is taken with the high 8 camera. So we had high 8 running even when the beta cam was going as well for the, just the B-roll. Okay, now we can cut to August 28th.
Watch your left. You're good on the left. All right. Another big spot for me. Crank it harder. Crank it harder. I would have done this backup job. What's he doing now? Hey, you better have brought beer back from out there. You don't mean it straight. Hey, oh, shit. This one hasn't been drinking. We're stuck in here. Let me get it. I'm going forward. I'm going action. Are we clear? Oh, great. We got down the summer in here.
On the light.
Look at slow motion really quickly. stills that don't tell a whole lot. We'll get back to that. Well, I do test it. First sequence is really important, and it's good. This machine is playing it quite brightly, so it's good. Because the gate, the way it's moving is much more natural than it's nearly controlled by the RE.
So where does it hold its arms up?
Well, it's walking 3 quarters like this, and it's
It is walking from the right-hand
Right to the
side
left.
in the background across the road to the
that's a
left.
hand move just there. The light spot there's a rump patch. It's kind of light color. When you slow it down in this segment, it's so dim, it's really difficult to see it. It's not impossible. But it'll run back and forth here. I loop it through several times.
What is that? Look in there. Go on. Put it.
Now, what time does that clock say?
8:37 is what you said, Danny?
Yeah, about 8:37.
Anna Marie says it was 6 o'clock when this happened,
She just made a mistake.
and it would not be dark on the West Coast in August.
It was definitely 8:20 to 8:30. So I mean, the clock's at 8:37. All the way.
It would not be that dark at that time of night on the West Coast in August.
It's overcast and rainy.
No, this is dark. This is dark. That's nighttime. I mean, that's not just kind of getting dark. It's dark out. Those headlights are really illuminating.
Oh yeah, you're right.
They're very bright because they're in a very dark place. In August, now keep that in mind, on the West Coast in August. Even in a forest, it's not that dark.
In California, it would be.
Well, Larry, I think overcast greenery down in the high table, but I wouldn't argue about the dark.
Sure awful black, though.
I think the pretty dark is there.
Yeah.
Now watch carefully this white object right there. We'll talk about that in a minute.
What was that little lip?
Now unfortunately on the TV monitor it cuts off about 1/4 inch of the picture. So you can't see the foot pretty well in that initial section there.
Is it professional photography?
Yeah. Drunk professional photographers. Free Corona, I would be too. Well, a few years ago I would be. Allegedly drunk photographers.
Jeff, when did they quit shooting? When did they wrap it?
Why? When did they?
Yeah, how long have they been? In other words, how long have they been partying?
I'm sorry, how long have they been
Partying, yeah.
That's a good question. My impression is that they had been going for probably a couple of hours.
Yeah, probably.
They've been stuck there, basically, they said from 20 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, and I think she said they wrapped around 5 in the afternoon or something, so that would give them a couple hours.
Yeah, it takes a while to cook. They check it.
Okay, I think what I'll do is stop it now at this point, and then we'll go through some slides, and then we can always come back to it if you'd like to see more of it. Okay.
Time for
How
light?
easy were you there, Danny?
I was there late December of
Like,
1995.
what time of day? Hour?
Late night.
Same road.
Let's see what the lights are.
Is it moving?
Going backward.
Going backwards?
Dan,
Okay.
could you leave those
This
off?
is,
Yeah, because they kind of go right in the... Thanks.
Have you got the pointer, the laser tool? Okay, this is the location. This is Highway 101, 199 connects over here to 197. Walker Road is situated right here. The sighting took place right at the bend right there. The redwood that you saw is situated essentially right there that it walks behind. You can see there's a fork in the road, both dead end here on the river eventually. The ranger informed us that this area right here was one great big Himalayan blackberry patch in full fruiting in late August. And occasionally there are people coming down to pick blackberries, really not at night. Potential for encounters with bears, and usually not on a weeknight. This was on a Monday night. Okay, here's a view looking down the road. This is just about from where they first sighted the subject. We're about 108 feet down to this little bend in the road right here, and there's another 32 feet, although it doesn't. Pace it off, it's more clear. One thing that really amazed me when I got there, I had never been to Redwoods before, and that was just the scale of things. When you look here, and it's hard to imagine how big a person would be until you're really there on scene. But the distance between this point right here and the redwood is a full 32 feet, almost 10 yards.
If you're enjoying all this rare and unique content, please show your support by subscribing and leaving comments.